In the series Black Mirror, there is a scene from the episode Nosedive that showcases a world so dystopian that it sends shivers through you. Lacey, the protagonist, is at the airport trying to get on a flight. She has been living in a society where every interaction is rated on a 5-star scale, and your social rating determines access to services, housing, and opportunities. After a series of minor frustrations and outbursts, her ratings have dropped below a threshold. At the airport counter, the system flags her as below 4.2, and the staff denies her boarding, smiling politely while explaining she no longer qualifies. When she protests, security is called and her rating is further docked for public disturbance. Each scream and desperate plea spirals her rating down further, locking her out of travel, car rentals, and even coffee shops. This is not fiction anymore. Control via technology in the name of conformity and standardization is being worked on by many powers and groups around the world. Welcome to the Drishtikone show, where we go beyond the noise, pierce the propaganda, and expose the phenomena and actions that others are too afraid to touch or approach. This is not just about politics, you see, it's about rediscovering the truth. Today, we confront a growing reality that most are too afraid to acknowledge, that the global elite have found the kill switch for free speech, and they are trying to press it now. They sell it as protecting minorities, saving democracy, and free speech. But in reality, it is about control, total control. Let's break something to you. There is Chinification of Brazil going on. Most people don't realize what's just happened in Brazil, but they should. It is world's second largest social media market after the United States, and it has just implemented a censorship regime that would make Chinese Communist Party nod in approval. Under the new system, the platforms are required to proactively remove content labeled as hate speech or anti-democratic. What counts as anti-democratic, you may ask? Well, anything critical of the Supreme Court, anything critical of President Lula, any statement that can be framed as an attack on the institutions. There is no legal standard, there is no process to determine legitimacy. Every one of the Brazil's 18,000 judges can classify content as anti-democratic at will. And the result? Platforms will preemptively censor, silencing dissent before it can even reach the public. But it gets worse. If a platform receives an extrajudicial notice and fails to remove the content, and a court later rules against it, the platform is held jointly liable. They must now function as internal courts, evaluating every single complaint, fearing ruinous fines and liabilities if they don't censor first and ask questions, well, never. In practice, they will censor everything that even remotely carries any risk. Left wing advocacy groups, well funded and deeply networked, will exploit this mechanism by sending mass takedown notices, forcing platforms to comply and face destruction. It is quite simply para-state censorship, bypassing all electoral accountability. And was not even Brazil's idea, you see. Just last week, Alexandre de Moraes, Brazil's Supreme Court judge, leading censorship campaign, was speaking at an event organized by Pointer Institute and IFCN, entities deeply embedded with Western media and big tech. This is the blueprint for the global censorship regime. Europe, Canada, and the United States are all next. The dream of free speech in the West is being snuffed out, not with a bang, but with a soft chokehold under the comforting slogans of protecting democracy and stopping hate. Many do not realize that Ireland may very well be the next Trojan horse of censorship. Let's explain. Across the Atlantic, the right for free speech is playing out in Ireland, a small, ultra woke nation that has become the testing ground for a much larger, more terrifying ambition. controlling the world's big tech platforms through the back door of hate speech laws. Ireland hosts European headquarters of Google, Facebook, X, and YouTube. So, what better place to seize control of the internet than the tiny country housing the data centers of the world's biggest speech platforms? The Irish hate speech bill is being sold as a protection against hate crimes, but there is no such thing. It is actually a Trojan horse designed to break big tech's resistance to censorship. Hidden deep within the bill are clauses that hold corporate bodies criminally liable for failing to prevent hate speech. Companies can avoid prosecution only if they submit to the government monitoring and and have control over their content moderation practices. Take all reasonable steps, the bill says. But what does it mean? It means the platforms will be forced to censor aggressively to avoid prosecution. But Ireland is not acting alone. You see, in Dublin, former CIA Director John Brennan, a man who used foreign spies to trigger the Trump Russia collusion hoax, met with UK, EU, and the Irish officials to discuss coordinated online censorship. The intelligence community is using Ireland to pressure big tech to adopt government approved moderation policies, effectively outsourcing censorship while maintaining plausible deniability. Niam Hodnett, Ireland's online safety commissioner, oversees the implementation of these censorship regimes, mirroring US and the EU backed models crafted by intelligence linked NGOs. Ian Kerr, a former Facebook policy manager and co founder of Kinsen, connects platform moderation directly to state funded narrative surveillance. Noreen O'Sullivan, the former Garda commissioner and Europol official, pushes to integrate security principles into online governance, aligning speech control with policing and intelligence frameworks. Claire Loftus, the former director of public prosecutions in Ireland, worked to criminalize online expression, creating a judiciary aligned with censorship. And Robin Simcox, the UK's Commissioner for Countering Extremism, demands surveillance and regulation under counter-terrorism banners, linking speech policing with MI5 and GCHQ priorities. This is not about protecting people from hate. This is about total control of online discourse by intelligence communities. And the stakes are global. Unbeknownst to us all, there is an Anglo American censorship cartel which is taking shape. So let's discuss. So, who may be working behind the actions in Ireland, and Brazil, the EU, and the US? Well, the intelligence communities of the Five Eyes nations, the US, the UK, Australia, Canada, and the New Zealand. They have worked for years to censor dissenting voices and disfavored political opinions under the pretext of misinformation and hate speech. Do you remember when Obama demanded mass online censorship 1 week before the DHS tried to create a Ministry of Truth? Remember how the FBI pressured platforms to censor the Hunter Biden laptop story under the pretext of Russian disinformation while running a disinformation campaign themselves? Do you remember how the Twitter files revealed the constant FBI and DHS pressure on platforms to censor Americans, journalists, and even elected politicians for violating narratives? This is a coordinated strategy, you see, using intelligence linked NGOs, media institutions, and government offices to establish a censorship regime without democratic accountability. So let's talk about Europe for a moment. Well, Europe has its own Digital Services Act, which is basically the harbinger of death of free speech. Europe is formalizing the censorship regimes through this Digital Services Act, or the DSA. Under the DSA, the platforms must remove illegal content, including hate speech, within 24 hours or face crippling fines. But who defines hate speech? Governments and unelected EU bureaucrats. Platforms must share user data with governments, enforce shadow bans, and adjust algorithms to suppress misinformation. It is censorship by proxy, you see. Governments pressure platforms to silence dissent while denying responsibility. The EU is expanding its code of practice on disinformation, which pressures platforms to remove or downrank content deemed false by fact checkers. But who funds these fact checkers? Well, the same governments pushing for censorship. And how are they doing this in a seemingly legitimate way? First, it was hate speech, then it was misinformation, now it is protecting democracy. So you see the misinformation to democracy protection, the excuse for censorship is always evolving. It's a moving target. In Brazil, criticizing Lula, the President Lula, is anti democratic. In Europe, disagreeing with immigration policies is hate speech. In Ireland, refusing to comply with gender ideology can be prosecuted as a speech crime. Every new crisis becomes a justification to expand the censorship. Terrorism, we need censorship. Pandemics, we need censorship. Elections, we need censorship. It's never about public safety, it's always about power. The genius of the system is how it outsources censorship to private actors while maintaining the illusion of free speech. Governments threaten platforms with fines, liability, and criminal prosecution unless they remove the undefined harmful content. Platforms, to avoid punishment, implement preemptive censorship, shadow bans, and algorithmic suppression. This is why dissenting voices are throttled, demonetized, or disappear without explanation. You're told that it is a terms of service violation, but terms of service are dictated by the governments operating through back channels. The road to total control is being paved by our own naivety and ignorance, fed by propaganda that we become victims of. The word is The world is sleepwalking into a technocratic dystopia where unelected bureaucrats, intelligence agencies, and safety commissioners decide what you can say, what you can read, and what you can share. And this is global. The model being tested in Brazil and Ireland will become the template for the US, the Canada, the UK, and the EU, and then the rest of the world. Free speech will be replaced by algorithmic governance aligned with the regime priorities. Democracy will become meaningless when only regime approved narratives can circulate. So, what can be done? Well, the first step is to recognize the threat. This is not about hate speech. This is not about misinformation. This is not about protecting democracy at all. This is about power, the power to control what you see, hear, and believe. It is about a new kind of authoritarianism that does not need gulags or secret police because it has algorithms and community guidelines. We must resist these frameworks, push back legally, and support platforms that refuse to comply with the censorship regime. We must call out the intelligence agencies, the NGOs, the fact checkers, and the media institutions complicit in this soft totalitarianism. What is happening in Brazil and Ireland is not local news. You see, it is the front lines of a global war on free speech. If we lose here, we lose everywhere. The future will not be a Black Mirror episode alone. It will be our daily reality unless we act now and urgently. Free speech is not a luxury. It is not an American right. It is a human right. And we are at the risk of losing it forever. If you find this analysis valuable and it helped you to understand the geopolitical situation around India and the world better, then please discuss it with your family, friends, and networks, and push your local representatives to oppose these censorship frameworks. Support legal challenges against the unconstitutional speech restrictions. And please subscribe, like, and share. And do click that bell icon, please. Most importantly, tell us in your comments. Did you know the level of dystopian and controlling mechanisms being implemented by the elites and the governments around the world? We have seen such elements like fact checkers and the use of judiciary being established in India. How can Indians save themselves from the chokehold of these controlling oligarchs? Please do comment below. And until next time, Jai Hind.